conventional, but I show up with a couple comps, but that's it. I've tried it the other way around. I've tried to be super prepared and have, all these charts and data and whatever, and it doesn't really work for me. I end up just reading it off and not connecting with people. So I'll talk to, are we?
Are we recording? We are recording.
Okay,
We're
okay,
going.
okay. So, yeah, so I warned Lori when she reached out. I said, I am not a conventional agent, I don't think. I'm not by the book, but I mean, it's worked, for me usually. I don't win every listing, but I do enough to stay busy. It's working out. So I guess if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I guess that would be one of my messages to you is be yourself, do what works for you. And as you go on and you do more and more of this, you'll know what that is. And maybe that is being ultra prepared with slides and a full-blown presentation. And maybe it's not. And for me, it's not. I've tried it. I remember maybe 2 years ago, I had a listing appointment. It was a referral. It was kind of a distant referral. So it was very much like I was being interviewed. I knew she was interviewing other agents. And I kind of got stuck in a snowstorm on the way down. And she's like, you know what, don't bother, just come tomorrow. Well, then me being the, fly by the seat of my pants person I am, I'm like, oh, sweet, I can be more prepared. I'll put this whole thing together. Well, I didn't get the listing. And I think that, I just remember thinking, I wish I would have just gone in the snowstorm as unprepared as I was. It's just easier for me to go in and just talk to people and just have a conversation and just get to know them. I think the thing about me, I sometimes am like, this is so weird that I ended up in this career. And then there's other days where, and this is more often than not, I think this career was made for me. I love people, I love houses, and I love money. So if you love those three things, you're gonna love this business. And when I say I love money, that might sound bad, but I just, I'm not like, you're not gonna see me driving a Porsche or anything like that. That's just not my thing. Those aren't my goals. I love the idea of making money in this business to be able to reinvest in this business and be an investor in real estate and hopefully one day exit this business. So I've only been at KW for 5 years, and that's been the biggest thing I've learned here is that this is not your life, this is your livelihood, and we're gonna make a plan to get you out of it one day. So I love that, and so I'm motivated by that. So anyway, I think if you have those three things going for you, you're gonna do well in this business. You have to like people. You have to be able to connect with people. And I've people who are close to me sometimes say, you're a chameleon. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I am. Maybe I am. But that's just who I am. I'm not trying to be someone different around certain people. It's just that when I tend to mimic the people I'm around. And I bet that a lot of you in this room are the same way, and that's why you're in a sales job or why you're seeking a sales job, because that's a personality type. I mimic people that I'm around, and so I have really great friends because they're like, you're so funny, you're so cool, and I'm like, actually you are, and I'm just mirroring you. So, but I'm actually not that cool, but I end up with really cool, funny, awesome friends because that's who I like to be around the most, because when I'm around them, that's how I feel. So anyway, I think that makes for a good salesperson because I can usually get in front of someone and have a good conversation and find a commonality, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is when you walk into someone's home, whether it's a call off of, say, one of your other listings, off of a website, someone you met at an open house, whatever it is, I think it's important to, what I do anyway, is I will look around the room that we're in and I will find something that maybe we have in common, whether that's like a sports thing that I like or a piece of art that I like or something, and I will say, where did you get that? and they'll say India. And I'll say, my daughter just went to India, and then we'll have a conversation. And to me, that is so much more meaningful than I put this thing together and I made these stats and this is it. Nobody cares. We haven't made a connection yet. They don't care that I have all this information. That information is important. It's important to know what you're doing. I think with 20 years of experience behind me, I do know what I'm doing. So that is probably the easier part. Like that's easy for me to know what I'm doing. If I know the address of the house I'm going to and I spend 10 minutes online before I leave my house to go to the appointment, then I know enough to have a conversation about their home.
Can you explain those 10 minutes?
Yeah,
What are you doing in those 10 minutes?
yes. So if I am given I'll obviously have their address. And that's usually the only thing I really ask for. I might ask a couple of questions, like, is your basement finished? What updates have you done? So I kind of have some idea of their home. Or I may even drive by. If I'm like in the area and it works for me, I'll do a drive-by before the appointment. And so then I'll kind of know what I'm up against too. And I'll talk to you about that stuff in a minute because that's another big part of my business. But so in those 10 minutes that I usually will spend, maybe a little bit more sometimes, maybe a little bit less sometimes, I will take and I'll just do a map search of the area and I'll just quickly look at the comps. So I know their house is 2,200 square feet. I'll look, okay, that's 2,200, that sold for 550. Okay, it looks like they updated the kitchen, they didn't. Okay, we're good to go. Like that's kind of what I go in with usually. I don't go in with an over analysis. This is the thing, when you're going on 2, 3, 4 listing appointments a week and you have all this other business, I don't have time to spend 2 hours on the market analysis for every time I go to a listing appointment. There are times when I will. For instance, I met a client this last week at one of my other listings and their home was like a unique property, 2 acres, 6,500 square feet, very beautiful finishes, but dated, like a very unique property. I definitely spent 2 or 3 hours on that because I wanted to get it right. And it's not an easy one. But if we're talking like Daybreak, or we're talking Ivory Ridge, or, then or if we're even talking Sugar House, it's pretty straightforward. Like there's gonna be variables that are gonna change, but there's so many more variables when you get in that home too, that you could spend 2 hours, and Terry and Lori can attest to this, but you could spend 2 hours and then you could walk in the home and it smells like cat pee, and everything that you just thought was true is no longer true. So it's like, get me in your house and then I'll go back and do a little more homework. But I like to just have enough information going into that first appointment that I can sound like I know what I'm talking about, that I maybe have some comps that I've pulled that I've got either printed. I don't have a printer. I don't usually bring stuff.
You know what I'm seriously great at? So she's super humble, so I don't know what Lori says as far as her introduction of how much business she actually does. I'm not sure if that's even been shared, but it's a lot. So for me, like the message, especially for you guys being newer, like don't overthink it.
Yeah, 100%.
Spending a ton of time making sure she's right. She's
Yeah.
just going and getting in front of the people and starting the conversation.
Yes, that is 100% the way I approach it, because it doesn't matter how right I am if I can't go have a good, meaningful conversation with the person. Now, if I'm way off and I have no idea what I'm talking about, and I don't know that they just opened a corner market, that everyone's hyped about or whatever, you got to know what you're doing. You got to put yourself out there. And I think maybe some of that is natural for me because I am out so much. I'm out showing, listing, working.
Hello?
I do think that sometimes,
Sorry. Technology's great. It doesn't work, right? See if that works better.
oh. Okay, we'll see what they say. Okay. So I think that it's good to have a plan. It's also good to be able to waver from that plan when you walk in that door, right? So, but this plan is great. So he says first and foremost, set the tone. Number one, set the tone. So he says, flip the switch. It's showtime. Talk to them as if they're already your client. This is how I approach a listing appointment too. So when I'm talking to them, I never say, if you choose me, if you go with me. I always say, and here's what we're going to do to get your house sold. And we're gonna do this on this day, and I'm gonna bring my photographer in on this day. And I just talk like that. And I don't think it's, you know, off-putting for people to, it's just me making a plan. And then in the end, I'll say, well, you know, I hope we can work together. Let me know. So it's not like I'm putting a sign in their front yard as we speak, but I'm talking as if we're going to be working together. So, and setting the tone is so important. My phone will continue to ring and notify me of messages if I didn't silence it the entire meeting. So always just make sure when you're there, you're there. You're gonna have so many distractions all the time, we all do, but just be there. Just be in the moment and know that after that hour, everything is still there when you're done, and that's okay. I have to remind myself of that because I get really nervous, like someone's trying to get into one of my lists or, you know, whatever, but just leave it and just be in the moment. I think that's so important to do that and to be able to make a connection. So that takes me to number two. He says that he would then tour the home. So that's what I do too. So I go in and we kind of have a conversation. And like I said, I'll find something that I love or something that, you know, I have a question about, kind of start a conversation. And then I'll say, would you be willing to take me through the house? And then they will. And then that's where I will say things like, for instance, too, this is what's so fun and so interesting about this business is that in the span of one day last week, I talked to a client who was in the beginning stages of a terrible, devastating divorce. And in the next appointment, I was with a client who was buying their dream home and selling their other beautiful home. And then in the next couple of days, I was in a home where it was a beautiful home, but they had like a ton of kids and grandkids, and it was messy, and they weren't exactly planning on me, but they wanted me to come, and so they came, and they were so apologetic. And so it is understanding what it's like to be a human, okay? I love a clean house, but my house is clean like the 4 days after my cleaners come, and then it's a wreck. So I love a clean house, so I can relate to the person whose baseboards are perfect and whose house is so clean. But that's also not necessarily my real life, so I can also relate to the person whose kids' crumbs are all over the floor and the counter. And it's like, make people comfortable, make them comfortable with you. Like, this is fine. Like, don't go like, oh my gosh, your house, you know, like what, like just make them feel good about the state that they're in for whatever reason they're in it, you know? So anyway, so as you walk through their home, I always try to be complimentary, but I'm also honest, like, oh yeah, we can come and help you fix that. We'll go ahead and get that carpet restretched for you. We'll go ahead and get the cleaners in. Don't stress about it. I've got great cleaners. Like, you know, so you don't need to be fake, but you know, just try to make them feel comfortable, whatever that circumstance is.
So question.
Yes.
As a new agent, when you were new, would you pay for the cleaning and the carpet stretching?
Okay, well, as a new agent, no, because I do. I pay for all of that. I think one, yeah, it did feel like, oh, it's a lot of money. But two, I feel like we as an industry, we've leveled up. Don't you think? And so I feel like a lot of us are doing a lot of these extra things now, which is so great. I think it's so important, especially right now with everything that's going on, for the consumers to know, like, we're bringing so much value. We're spending so much money. I mean, I spend easily $5,000 on most of my listings by the time I have them all ready and photographed and everything. So not all the time, but I do. And if you're not comfortable paying for that stuff, then you can say, I have a great cleaner, I will refer to you. I have a great carpet stretcher, I will refer to you. So make sure you have a really good list of people, because again, it's all about like you want to make them comfortable, you want to make them feel like you're the expert, like you're going to hold their hand and get them through this process. And if you're not comfortable paying for that stuff, then at least get someone there for them. What'd you say, Terry?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly what I was gonna
there's
say.
no
If they're
excuse for
hearing,
not
oh my
that.
gosh, I gotta pay $5,000, you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
But I think if we're facilitating it and taking it off their plate instead of like,
Yep.
you need to hire a cleaner, you need to hire this, they're like, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do.
Yes.
But if you're like, I will bring someone in,
Yes.
and then they pay for it.
Yeah, and I can, if we get through this and you have some questions, I can tell you specifically what I do. I kind of want to try to get you through this because I think it's so great, but then I can tell you specifically what I do, and maybe you could take that and like adapt that to what's, comfortable for you. So I made a note in here during this that he must have said this: consumers make a decision on how you make them feel. So that's what I've been trying to reiterate to you, and I cannot stress it enough. It doesn't matter how much you know if they don't like you. Think about any time you've tried to sell any time you've tried to buy anything from anyone. It doesn't matter how good they are. If you don't like them, if you don't connect with them, nothing that they say, it's all going in one ear and out the other, right? So if anything you take away from this today, take that. You've got to make a connection. It's all about the way you make people feel. This is his step 3, and that is ask about previous experiences. This will get you so far. And Terry can attest to this, there is no better listing to go to than the one where someone's had a bad experience with someone else. Because one, you can know their triggers, right? You're gonna know like, she didn't even follow up with feedback. Oh, we have a system, we follow up with feedback. Or she didn't even tell me that I needed to, clean the carpets. Yeah, whatever. So that's a really good one. So that's ask about past experiences. And I definitely always do that. Number 4, lower their guard. So he kind of says, basically, look, because you will have this. And when I run into these kind of people, because of my, chameleon personality, when someone's like really nice and funny and we can like start off with a joke, I'm like, oh, this is easy. But then if their guard's up, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I cannot, this is so, this is probably not going to go well for me today because their guard's up. So I'm just like, they're lost, like it's lost on me. Like I'm lost on them. Like they're just, So, but he says one way to kind of break that guard down is to basically say to them, look, this is going to go one of 3 ways. Either we're going to end up working together or we're not. And if we're not, it's either because you don't want to work with me or I don't want to work with you. So, that kind of lightens it up and that kind of tells them like, I'm not going to make you sign anything today. This is us interviewing each other and that's okay. Either we're a good fit for each other or we're not. So that was number 4. And then number 5, he says, get them excited about where they're going and why. Ask where and why, not when. This is also important, and this is something that comes very natural to me when I'm having a conversation with someone about selling their home. So what's your plan? So where are you going? Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I love that city. That's so neat that you're moving there. Whatever it is, like, it's not necessarily when. When sounds like, so when is this happening? Because if it's not in the next 30 days, this isn't even worth my time. I'm just going to go home and go to my next thing or whatever. That's not it. Ask them where and why. And why is huge. The why is gonna change the whole dynamic of the conversation, right? Because we lost our job. Oh, because we got our dream job. Whatever that is, then that kind of sets your tone for how you're handling this conversation as well. It's listing appointments. So I love that one. Meeting time needs discussion and demonstration. So this is the other thing. So as you are kind of starting this process, it is very overwhelming. Like it's not overwhelming for me because I do it every day, but for someone who's done it once or twice in their lifetime, it's overwhelming. They're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do first. I don't know, any of it. So especially if they're trying to buy and sell and we're trying to time that for them. So get really clear on those timelines. And if you guys can always reach out to me or Terry and like just know that it's really helpful to kind of have that in your mind, how that's going to go. So like if you go into a listing appointment and you know that these people are going to be, say, buying a home in Idaho, then it's like, okay, so what does that look like for you? Do you need to sell this home in order to get that one? Yeah, we do. Oh, okay. So have you started looking up there? No, we haven't. Oh, okay. Well, I heard their market's gone up a lot. Do you have an agent up there? Oh, yeah, we do. Oh, okay, perfect. Well, do you mind if I just reach out to her? I just want to kind of make sure that she, knows kind of what you guys are netting from your house and that you're going to be able to comfortably get into what you want there. So let's at least get your feet wet in that market before we do anything with your house. Something like that. Because you don't want to be getting people in a position that is not a good position for them to be in, and especially right now with the way rates are and the way things, you want to be very certain that a person who is selling can accomplish what they're wanting to do by selling. So that's another good conversation to be having. Okay, and then just as simple as just confirming specs. So I told you I was really vague on my, analysis. I don't spend a ton of time. I'm not going in there with a full-blown appraisal, but I do. But it is important to say, oh, the tax data showed your house as a 4-bed, but I'm seeing 5. Oh yeah, we converted that to a bedroom. Okay, good to know. That'll impact the value a little bit. So we don't need to get into like, I think it'll be $3,700 different. It's like, just know what you're talking about. Just confirm the specs. Tell them the square footage that you have. Make sure it matches up. Okay, and then the pricing discussion. So this is like the whole thing, right? Because if they think their house is worth so much more and they're not motivated, then I'm just like, hey, it's been fun. Yeah, I'll get on to my next thing. But usually it's not the case. Usually they want direction from you. Every once in a while you're going to run into a seller who thinks they know everything, and it's like, then you just have to, as an agent, decide, like, is this worth it to me? Is this worth my initial investment? Sometimes I'll be like, it is. It's worth $500 worth of photos, but it's not worth $3,000 worth of staging and cleaning. So yes, I'll list your house. This is what you need to go do to get it ready. And just so you know, my opinion of value is different than yours. I'm happy to try it. Let's try it, because you never know. But just know that this is not my price recommendation. That's kind of how I usually handle that. And because sometimes what happens too is like a lot of agents might disagree with me because they might say, oh no, if they're not realistic, I'm not going to spend the time or money. Well, the way I see it is I actually get a lot of my business comes from my listings. So I love to take a listing. I will take listings if they're a little high. I will take listings if they want a little deal on the commission. I will take listings because from listings I get buyers, and from buyers I get sellers, and that's how my business works. So I will take the listing. You decide how you want to do your business. But for me, 8 times out of 10, I'll take it even if they're a little unrealistic on it, because that's reason number 1. But number 2 is because people's motivation levels change throughout the process. And I'm decent at convincing people to do things. So I can usually have that conversation down the road. We get more comfortable with each other. I'm like, are you tired of showing your house yet? Like, and not getting an offer? Like, do you want to talk about this? What do you think? So that's my 2 cents on that. You kind of need to take that case by case, because you will have those people that say, we have to get 950,000 or we can't sell. And if I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, you're not getting that. You're getting 825. So, maybe that's something like that. Maybe that's not worth it, because then you're just setting everybody up for failure. But if they're like, well, my son, this is the situation I have right now. So my son in California, you need to call him because he knows everything. And he's way smarter than you. And way smarter than me. So, okay, I'll call your son. We'll have a conversation. So he is like thinking my client's house is just worth so much more than it is, So I'm like, okay, well, that's great. Like, this isn't California. So it's not. But I'm happy to do what you guys want. So we've done it. And I said, but I want you to know in writing that you're $100,000 high. So we're sitting on the market because we're $100,000 high. But that's okay. I'm okay with that, because I think that this person's motivation to sell is high. And I think she just needs to know for herself that she's wrong and not because of me telling her so. So in a few weeks, we'll reduce it and it'll be fine. But, you know, it's dependent on the person and their circumstances.
So you get buyers. Are you getting
Yes.
from referrals and or open houses?
All of the above. So I am not the very best at open houses. So I have people that do them for me that are really good.
Do them for her.
Be so good. Yeah, you guys can. But so I am not so good at open houses. I have had some great success stories. I will say that. Like I had a home in Harriman that I listed. It was like $580 at the time, but it's like a $1.5 million house now. So this was like back, you know, before things went wild. And it was awesome. Like I sat at the open house, this cute couple came in, they wanted to buy it. We wrote it up. I represented both sides. I sold their home. And then in 2 years, they decided they didn't like it. So we sold it again. And then I helped them buy another home. So I sold like 5 houses off of that. So that was a good, I've had a few little ones like that, but that one sticks out because those have become really great clients. And it's just been so fun to know that like they just walked into my open house and they've just been amazing clients. So it does happen. But back to answering your question. So I feel like, and Terry, you weigh in on this, but I feel like now more than ever, buyers are out looking on their own. I don't know if you're seeing that. I am seeing it, and I think it's not because of the commission thing. I don't think that's why. I think that people aren't quite sure about the move. They're kind of like, we want to move, we're putting our toe in there, we're thinking about it, but we have this amazing interest rate, we don't want to give it up. So we're just gonna like look, we're just gonna casually look and see how things go. And so they don't have agents. So I've been like, right now I'm representing 2 buyers on 2 of my listings and selling both their houses. So this is my 2 cents to all of you. Business breeds business.
Them calling you if you're not doing the open houses?
Yes,
The buyers
yes,
calling you?
yes. One of those was an open house, right now. One was an open house, their mom came in, and then the other one was a sign call, yeah. So that multiplied to a lot of business, right? So this is my thing, and I'm gonna go off script, off of the Glover script for a second, because this is my thing that I cannot stress enough. Because I always have agents say like, can I take you to lunch and pick your brain? Or like, I'll see people, and I don't mean to like bash on the functions, because like the functions are great, like that's great. But like I have done this business for 21 years, so I've raised my kids in this business. And as a mother, it was important to me, and still is, like I don't do anything that doesn't produce income. Like this is an exception, you guys. The fact that I'm here right now.
That's why you're here. I told them we don't care.
That's just been my stance for 20 years. Either I'm making money or I'm home with my kids. I'm not at the thing. I'm not at the Top Golf with the title company. I'm not. Like that's just not where I value. I value my time above that. So I just don't. But I'm not saying it's bad. And if you have the time, obviously networking is important and knowing people is important. And that's a whole thing, because like coming here has changed my career. Like I love KW. I'll never leave KW. But so because of the people, it's only the people. I've never even read any of the books. Like, I should not have said that on camera. I just love the people. I've read Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I have read Millionaire Real Estate Agent, but that's the only one. But there's a lot of information out there from KW and a lot of resources. But I was pretty far into my career by the time I got here. So I've kind of just kept doing things the way they are. But the people, it's the best. So I'm not telling you networking's not important. It is. But this is what I want you to know. Business breeds business. Get out there. Take the listing. Meet the buyer. Whatever. I'm meeting a buyer at someone from our office's listing tonight because he sent it to me. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. Like, of course I'm going to go. Like, that's important. Like, those are the kinds of activities you need to be doing. Watch for those opportunities. Watch for the agents to post that. But I'm sorry, I know that's off script. This is a listing appointment thing. But just that's my thing, is like, business breeds business, you know? agent socials don't. So if you're in a room with a bunch of agents, it's probably about the worst place you could be to get a real estate referral, right, or business. So anyway, so that's why I say take the listing, even if it's maybe not, it most likely will generate more. So, okay. We talked about pricing. So CMA presentation. So this is where like 8 out of 10 times I'm going to be not super prepared. And I'm just going to kind of say, well, now that I've been here and I've been able to walk through, I'm going to go prepare a market analysis for you. I just like to have been there. I just think it's so important to smell it, feel it, see it, know that, you know, just the whole thing. And then I'll usually go back and do the market analysis. Again, like it's a time thing. And it's also just like half the time when I've done that in the past, it's like, well, we're going to leave that in the car because this was not what I was thinking I was, you know, coming to or whatever. So, but this is where he says, now's the time for the presentation. So see how far we are into this meeting though, like before we're sitting down and going through a CMA. Like we've looked at the house, we've had conversations, we've, you know, all these things. We've talked about pricing and motivation, and we're not just sitting down and presenting a CMA. So that's one step in the process. But and then he just talks about number 10 is close for the right price. So this is where you've now presented the CMA, and now you're going to say, okay, so what do you think of this price? And you make the price recommendation. And then they might say, well, we really want to start higher. And then that's where you can go into the whole thing. Statistically speaking, you're better off to start here, and here's why. But I'm very open to your suggestion. Tell me why you think that. Well, because that's what my son said in California. I'm like, well, does he have these comps? Like, I don't know, just, you know, so I really do. I use humor a lot. Like, I will say that to someone. Like, I'll just be like, oh, I didn't know he had access to the MLS. Like, that's so cool. Like, just, you know, like, I'll just do stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It just depends on the, it depends on the person. Depends on the person, I guess. I'm sure it wouldn't go well with anyone, with just anyone. Okay, so then that's 10. 11, handle pricing objections before advancing. So just like we talked about, so why do you think that price is right? Let me just tell you, I will so list for that price for you, but I really don't think it's in your best interest to do so, and here's why. And just really try to, you know, get that price right with them. Days on the market are the enemy. So that's the other thing that you need to really portray to your potential sellers, is that days on the market are the enemy. Like you've got to tell them, like, we are going to get, I promise you, we're going to get our best offer within the first, really, even in this market. Like, I know that the days on market average is growing, but still, like, I had some clients, who was it? Anyway, they were just ready to go in and beat up this seller. They're like, it's been 12 days on the market. There's no way. It's been 12 days. And I'm like, you guys, 12 days. Like, I have worked in markets where houses were on the market for 90 days or 120 days. Like, it's 12 days. We're not going to go beat them up. But, you know, but that's the mentality of buyers, because that's been our market for so long, and it is shifting. But even with that said, I do think that it's still a very accurate statement to say you're going to get your best offer right out of the gate. So you got to get it right the first time. So remind them of that. Days on market is the enemy. So then 12, he just says close after handling objections. So then he's just closing all the time. So, you know, people always are like, oh, you're such a closer, you know, and it's like, well, you know, like that's where the money comes in, right? Like the big, like that's where the paycheck is the close. Like, it's great to have a fun conversation. It's great to make a connection. It's wonderful to talk about people's artwork or whatever interests you. I love art, so I love to, like, when I see that in a home, I'm like, this is so awesome, you know, whatever. But so those are all great, but if you're not closing, then you're not, like, you got to close the deal. So you got to kind of then bring in the, you know, bring in the big guns and close with them and say, okay, so what day should we shoot for? Should I plan for my photographer for Thursday and my stagers? I'll be here Tuesday to stage. Should we plan for photography Wednesday night? We're closing the deal. Okay, so that's that one. And then, so and this goes back to what I was saying. So his number 13 is pace for price reduction. So you're just kind of talking to them. So like, okay, so yeah, so let's start at that. And then what I would suggest is let's give it 2 weeks. And if we don't have anything at 2 weeks, let's start to look at a price reduction. And for me personally, I just leave it at that. I don't really make a plan. You could though, you could make a plan. You could say, so say the listing is like 400. You're gonna wanna, if you're gonna do a price reduction, it needs to not be like a $5,000 price reduction. It needs to be like 12 to 15, like 3 to 4 to 5% to really make an impact. So you could set that conversation with them or not, just have them know. I mean, I maybe would, because they might be like, yeah, we can do $1,000. You're like, no, that's not going to do anything. Like, it needs to be 3 to 5%, I think, to make a dent in anything. And then 14 is just to present marketing. So we have a lot of good marketing built in here at KW. So anything that you have through like your KW website or whatever it is, this is where you could kind of, present that to them and just kind of say, so okay, so great. So we'll get the photographer here. He's amazing. He's incredible. We're going to do some social media reels. We'll get that going. And then along with that, we've got some paid ads or whatever it is that you're going to do to get the word out. Maybe some open houses scheduled or whatever. And then 15, close again. So just always closing. So, you're just always saying, okay, so let's do that. We'll send the paperwork over. My assistant, me, whatever, we'll send the paperwork over. We'll get it going. Have a great night. Thanks for having me.
So do you explain the paperwork before it's sent over?
Okay, that is a great question. So this is where, like I was saying, I'm kind of unconventional because sometimes yes, like if it just depends. Like it's uncommon though for me to have done all of these things and the paperwork in one meeting. It's just long. So for me, I'm like, well, thanks so much for having me in your home. I'm gonna go back and refine my market analysis. This is like, I'll say, I was kind of thinking this price, but I had no idea it was gonna be this nice. So I'm just gonna go back and just kind of refine this. So I'll do that, I'll send it over to you, and then I will send you the paperwork and we can hop on a call and go through it together. Sometimes it's different and I'll bring it with me. Sometimes people want to do it, like I have some elderly clients right now that I do everything in person with them. So it just depends, I don't know. I don't have probably one answer for that because I've done it every which way. So, okay, we have time for questions. So I only had 15 steps there because I was like frantically taking notes during that session. It could have also been that some stuff didn't resonate with me. You'll see as what's his first name? Jeff, yeah. He's totally different than me. Like we're two totally different people. I'm not like as polished as him at all. And so some stuff resonated with me, some didn't. You're probably thinking the same thing about me today, and that is totally fine. Like take your nuggets and then go do you. And that's what I did with this. And so I have kind of used this as kind of my guide, and just adding in a few things that maybe I was missing before as I've tried to kind of sharpen the pencil going into this more difficult market and this kind of ever-changing industry, really. So, yeah.
What questions do you guys have? Pick her brain. We do not get her in her room very often. I know I said that the other night, but it is true.
That probably sounded so bad.
She hears between 1 and 1.5 on our roster. 200.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just your opinion on I have a listing coming up and it's borderline investment material.
Okay.
The client thinks
Mhm.
that you could live in it, and I think so
Okay.
too.
Mhm.
Definitely needs electrical.
Okay.
All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
It is livable. They've redone the bathroom. They've redone some windows.
Okay.
It's livable, but it's borderline investment.
Okay.
I'm curious about just your opinion on that and how you would approach a seller who's kind of in that mind frame.
Yeah. So there's market value, there's replacement value, and there's liquidation value, right? So you could tell them like, this is as is, we probably need to shoot for liquidation value, meaning we need to shoot for a price that's gonna garner like a cash offer quickly. Because you're gonna run into issues, because this is the thing about the majority of people in our state, in our country, are cash poor, right? They're qualified, they can get a loan, but they don't have the money to do the repairs. So that house is gonna get overlooked because they're gonna go in and they're gonna be like, I can't afford to put 30,000 into it after I pay the down payment. I mean, what's the price point? Yeah, yeah. And so then you kind of have to appeal to investors at that point. And there might be some things that might keep it from going FHA, which a lot of our first-time buyers are doing FHA right now. So, so my conversation would probably be, like, I guess I'd have to see it, but, you know, I would probably say to them like, well, what Gary Keller would say is buy it before you sell it. But if you're not in a position yourself to buy it, then, you know, and you want to be able to sell it for them, then I would probably say we have to price it to appeal to investors. And that needs to be about 20% below market value, probably. Or you can run like an ARV, like a after renovation value, and then kind of do the rough math on that. But I mean, you could always try it too. You could say, look, let's get it cleaned up. Let's show it in its very best light. Even if that's not great, let's get it to its very best, and then we know we've tried. And if it doesn't work, then we're gonna have to go this other route. So they really feel like you have like their best interest, which I hate to say feel like, you do have their best interest in mind. That's our job, like you do. And so it's just knowing what that is, right? And so,
Because it was listed like a year and a half ago.
oh,
before,
okay,
Through a homie, and
Oh.
it sat forever, and then they finally got an offer. And then
okay,
they realized, you know, they need to fix this, and asked for like a giant, like,
okay.
vast amount reduction.
Uh-huh.
And it just kind of just didn't go.
It didn't go through. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, I would just tell them like, this is just, yeah, this is what the market's probably telling them. Yeah, is that. So, yeah, you'll be good. You'll do good at that conversation. And like I say, I even would be like, because I'm not like always 100% confident in everything I say and everything I think. So I'm like, well, this is what I think, but if you think otherwise, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a week, you know, so then everybody's happy. So, yeah.
Questions? I mean, I know you more, so it's easier for me to come up with questions, but like,
Yeah.
she specializes in luxury. She has built a lot of wealth through real estate, so she owns properties. And then we also got her to teach us a mindset class. So questions I would ask, like, as a new agent, what would you do different if you were brand new today? Like, maybe give them a little advice for being brand new. Kind of maybe when you
Yeah.
start your wealth building journey, and luxury is kind of your specialty, and I also know like staging is a big specialty.
Yes.
So I would also say like we have to find our own niches, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about like yours.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So this is the thing, like find what you're passionate about. So I have just recently kind of lost my passion for the new build industry. Like I started staging about 6 years ago, and then that kind of evolved. And I really am passionate about it because I love helping people. So yes, I love luxury, and yes, I do sell some good high-end homes. It is so fun and amazing. And because of my construction background, I know a lot about the makings of a home and what makes a home nice. And so I think people love to know that like, oh yeah, she understands like this appliance, this, you know, was $30,000, and not every agent maybe knows that or realizes that, or this, you know, boiler system that's giving, you know, heating the floors to radiant, whatever. Just like luxury is its own thing, and there's a lot to know. So I do love that, and I do try to keep up on that because obviously that's great, and it's always a good, fun clientele most of the time. For me, it has been. So I love that. I'm very passionate about the staging thing because I think it works, and I have kind of a good system that I've created over the last 6 years. I have an assistant who helps me. We do it all. we stayed, we go in and we have, I have a professional home organizer that I pay for a day of her time, me and my stager. And then I have a home cleaner, window cleaner, and sometimes I'll do even like a basic yard cleanup. So I am kind of going out on a limb. I'm taking care of all that stuff for them. I'm very passionate about it. And here is kind of where it kind of kicked in for me one time about 3 years ago. I ran into a past client who I had helped her kids get into their homes. And I ran into her and she was like, oh, my dad is moving out of his home. He's elderly. And she's like, I wish we could use you, but he's got a relationship with his neighbor who's an agent. I was like, oh, that's fine, no big deal. I'm like, she's like, Annie, I am so overwhelmed. There's so much that needs to be done to get it ready. And I was like, is he not helping you? And she's like, no. She's like, he walked through the house and what he said to me was, you've got a lot of work to do here. She's like in her 60s and she's trying to take care of her 90-year-old dad. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And she was like in tears. And I said, well, you do what you need to do, but just know that like, this is what I do. This is what I love to do. If you want me to come and list the house, then what I would have you do is have you meet your family members there on Saturday, take what you want, leave what you don't, give me the keys, I'll handle the rest. So that's what I did. And it was so awesome. And they were like in tears, like they couldn't believe that I would just take that on. It wasn't that hard. It was a $300 dumpster, my kids and their friends clearing out and throwing stuff in the dumpster, had my cleaners come over, spent 2 days staging, had my yard guys come over, which that was when I met my yard guys who I love, and they do so much work for me. So I maybe spent $2,500. It was a 3% listing. It was 600,000, so 18,000 commission minus 2,500. I mean, it's a win. How is that not a win? I mean, I don't know, maybe like for other people, it's not, but for me and where I'm at in my life, that's a win. I'm good with that. So it was sold in a weekend, so that is something I'm very passionate about. And that's what I would say is like, find your passion, find what you're good at. If it's new construction, go find it. They all want you right now because a lot of people are, I think it's a little bit harder right now, I think. So if that's it, if it's first time buyers, if it's luxury, like do what you love, and like the money and the success will follow if you're doing what you love and you're passionate about it. And you're not afraid to answer your phone 24/7.
What are some tips for somebody wanting to get into new construction?
Okay, so I got into new construction. That's how I started at 23, so in 03. So, I just told you my age. So I started in 03 in new construction, and you asked me what I would do differently. This is going to answer that question too, because I started All Pro, which was right here. Like I just passed the building and I'm like, oh, that's a full circle moment. That was the worst decision of my life. Like terrible. Sorry, I probably need to be careful. I don't need to be careful. They're not in existence anymore. They've been out of business forever. It's fine. It's fine. It's a long time ago. It's in the past. But it was really bad because I had no training. I had no help whatsoever. I went there because I started in the business because I had been given an opportunity by a builder to come work for him. So I went there because his other agent was there. That's all I knew. But I didn't have any training. So that's the one thing I would do differently. You're already doing it. You're already here. Like, be here, immerse yourself in the training, immerse yourself in getting to know agents that are more experienced than you, and do that. So that's the biggest thing I would say I would do differently is be here, which you already are. So. But to answer your question about new construction, for me, it was someone I knew. So that was like my foot in the door. But to speak to that was my foot in the door. He went bankrupt 9 months later. I was caught with 2 or 3 build jobs that were a nightmare. I was 23. I think I aged 10 years. And I met a developer through that process that was from Heber. And I sold his 130 lot development of new luxury homes at 23. So it was like, the reason why that worked so well for me selling for him up there, he had all these like Park City agents in their fancy cars and their years of experience, like hounding him for business. But he picked me. And the reason he did is not because I'm like smart or pretty or nothing like that. There's none of that. I was not given those things. I loved his project. I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing. Like, it was this planned community before planned communities. Like, it was open space and it was these trails and all this cool stuff. And I was like, this is so cool. So people would come in the model home in Harriman. And so this was like an independent builder. So he knew this developer and he was like, Annie, see if you can sell some build jobs in Heber. And I'm like, it's kind of far, but okay. But I did. I sold like 4 because I was like, if you're gonna drive from Harriman downtown, you might as well drive from Heber downtown. Like, this is so cool. You have to go see it. I'll meet you up there. So I ended up selling 4 homes for him. So he was like, you should come sell my project, because I loved it. So maybe that, I mean, maybe it's finding a build, like if you wanna do new construction, then find a builder that you love and just be like, introduce yourself to them and say, I love your product. You build such a great home. Like, how can I help you? How can I help you get your name out or get these homes sold? Or like, be really, really passionate about it. And then it will probably fall into place for you. I mean, I had that experience too. Like, I had the foot in the door, you know? And so it wasn't like he was hiring me off the street. Like, he knew I was gaining sales experience. And so I'm sure that helped him feel comfortable in choosing me. But it wasn't that, it was the fact that I was so passionate about what he was doing.
And those of you interested in new construction, I do have a really cool opportunity coming that will give you a chance to fill in if you're a new construction agent without actually doing it. You can,
Awesome.
we get to work with Creative Homes, and so did you do that last year? Okay. But we get several people that work in beautiful homes for builders for the Creative Homes. So
Yeah.
you get to kind of act like you're a new construction agent, so you get a feel for it. So
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. And yeah, and we have several. I was for a while, I was doing a lot more for the builder than I am now. He kind of needed someone full time in his office, and I wasn't willing to give up my other business for that. So I still work with him. I've stepped back a little bit, but when I was constantly looking for agents to do open houses. And I feel like we have a few in our office that, even if it's just a spec home and you can just go and, like, you know, get your foot in the door, you might have other builders walk in, or, you know, it's an opportunity to reach out to other builders and say, I've got this listing. I noticed you're building one. You call the city and get permits pulled and, you know, say, hey, I noticed you're building this spec home. Do you have an agent? So, yeah.
we're definitely over her time. Any last minute questions? I could keep her here all day.
You're so sweet.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing this for us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I mean, the biggest takeaways that I got was, don't overcomplicate it. It's very simple. We say all the time, this is a simple business, not always easy, but it's so simple. Be yourself. And I love that you came to the convention, you took notes, and you realized I may need to switch up some things.
Yeah.
We hear that all the time, like, we're now in a skills-based market, and it's not that you didn't have skills before then, but it is a time now to hone in on these skills. What am I doing good? What am I not? What can I add to it? You know, so she's been in the business 21 years and is still looking to enhance her skills. So don't feel like you're ever going to know it all. And, you know, keep learning and keep tweaking things. And I love that. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for telling all this. I love this.
No, it's great.
Would you like to record these? That's kind of our afternoon class, so more so.
Oh, yeah, trying to